Appearance on Dion's Daily Dose does not imply endorsement from or by any candidate or guest. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by Dion Bergeron or Dion's Daily Dose are his own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of any guest. Material and information presented is for general information purposes only. The Dion's Daily Dose name in all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owners, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service. If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose.
Hey, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Got a little bit different format tonight. Former Mayor Ron Meer is here with me at my house. Look at that. He's very much a face-to-face kind of guy. For those of you that are ending up on Facebook or YouTube that tried to view through Rumble, I forgot to update the link, so it's probably going to take you to last night's show. I will upload this to Rumble so you can watch it. I forgot. My apologies. Running for office and trying to do all this stuff at the same time, it's a lot. So forgive me. If anyone notices that we maybe need to turn the mic up or something, I have the mic kind of in between us. My 16-year-old who has been on the show before, Donovan, misplaced my secondary mic. I looked for it, but I haven't been able to find it. So we're just going to roll with this. Let me know if the mic volume needs to go up or something. But again, former Mayor Ron Meer here. One thing that I'd like to say I think is kind of awesome is we've communicated a little bit over the last week or so trying to set this up. Talked a little bit before that, but not very much. One of the things that I've reached out to a number of Democrats to be on the show, and he's the first one that's actually said, yeah, I think that'd be awesome. I generally get oh, yeah, I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
And I get it, but at the same time, running for office, one of the things that I found is, especially Northwest Indiana, but Michigan City in particular, it's Democrats are in charge of the city and half the county. It's a 50-50 mix at the county level, I'd say. You ran as a Democrat. You are a Democrat registered, and as a city that is primarily Democrat, most of the things I think you were able to accomplish fairly easily that you wanted to get done. But when dealing with downstate, who had a super majority Republican, that was a little different, right?
Absolutely. And you're right. Primarily, Michigan City's been ran by Democrats for a long time. I would say this, that I'm more of an independent Democrat. I'm not going to go by the script of the Democrats, and I don't go totally by the script of the Republicans. I'm more in the middle. I have some very conservative thoughts on certain issues, and I have some very liberal thoughts on others. And, that's something sometimes that bothers me a little bit, is that with one party, if you're not in line with the 10 top topics, you're in line with 8 or 9 of them. But one you're not. You can't be a part of that, and so that's a little disappointing to me sometimes. But particularly when you were looking for state funding and federal funding, you're a lot of times, President Trump was the president when I was in Mike Pence. I had formed a relationship with Mike Pence when he was the governor of the state of Indiana. And so when you're looking for federal funding, people say, well, that's not taxpayers' money. You're going to get a federal grant or you're going to get a state grant. Yes, it's still your tax. Do you pay state taxes? Do you pay federal taxes?
It's still taxpayer bonds.
The important part for a local leader, regardless of party, is to make sure that your community gets that federal funding for infrastructure. For instance, whether you're for or against the double track project, that was across party lines in several counties at the federal level, local level, and at the state level. And that's what made that project happen.
Right. I know you were an advocate of the project. I personally, I don't hate it. And I think I've made this clear. I don't hate the double track project. I wish there had been stricter regulations about how the funding got sent. Like, what companies ended up doing the renovations and stuff. But most people that I've talked to, have a positive view of what it's going to bring. Because I'm going to tell you, I saw the concept art for the apartments that they're supposed to put in right there at I think it's 11th and Franklin.
Yes. Yeah.
That the old South Shore station was, that they've now torn down, and it's pretty awesome. I mean, the concept art,
And remember, those
awesome.
things were being discussed back in 2017,
Yeah,
2018.
yeah.
So there was a lot going into this process. And what's important to make this process successful is leadership in the area when it takes off.
Right.
Because there's certain things that we have to expect from the South Shore and NICD as far as maintenance. But there's going to be a parking garage down there.
Mm-hmm. Which I think will really help, because it's a great spot.
The surrounding TOD is what's going to be important, and how that's managed.
Yeah.
And that we don't let things happen where, there's dismay in the area as far as with people sleeping on the docks and the loading docks and things of that nature, and trash buildup and things. It has to be managed well. And that's where the city leadership, whoever's in there, as far as city council and mayor, it's going to be real important that's managed. Public health and safety in that area, that police and fire, ambulance have access to everything they need to. Because I've already seen some things that have deviated from the original plan. Now remember, this was being discussed back in 2013, 14, and 15 of these things.
It's been in the works for a long time.
Yeah, and things have changed. They've evolved. Some things that were in the original agreements and project plan have altered and changed also.
Yeah. And that's, I think, that happens all the time with large projects like this. I mean, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars that, ultimately has gone into this project. So you're going to have differences as different administrations take over, as different people get in and out of office. The plans change. But overall, Michigan City was in need of a large project revitalization, and it kind of leads to the next point, which is that area, the arts. I don't know when the arts district first kind of took off. You would probably know better than me on that. But I remember I lived here when I was about 10 years old. I moved here, and I saw, I used to go down Franklin Square back before it became Franklin Square. It was Franklin Street, and then it became Franklin Square, and then they changed it back.
That concept, back and forth.
Yeah, but the thing that was always in the back of my mind, even as a kid, was this place could be so much more. Franklin Street, Franklin Square, all that stuff, it could be so much more. And I think the Arts District is actually starting to utilize it properly.
It's helped. And I've always believed that, pretty much anywhere you go, you look at their downtown, whatever it's the large city or big city, middle town out in the counties.
Right.
As their downtown goes, usually that's an indicator of how that community is doing.
Right.
And it's been a struggle. Now, the art concept began probably in 2010. I took office in 2012 and left in the beginning of 2020. But we really were able to revitalize that, the Warren building with the art space program coming in there. And I spoke to you off the air that, that was one of those cooperation things where it was a third go around to try to get tax credits for that project. Because I had formed a relationship with Mike Pence, Governor Mike Pence, when he was here, I was able to make a call, and we moved up on the list. And not sure exactly how that happened, but anyway,
but it happened.
But
that's what's important.
And then the project happened.
Yeah,
and that was great.
And I think that's kind of the key. And look, when I ran in 2020, I don't think that I stressed enough the bipartisanship that's going to be necessary in order to bring revitalization to the area. You were able to do that by fomenting relationships with
you have to. I mean, it's a super majority of Republicans at the state house, and you got a Republican governor.
Right.
And for when you want to rebuild your roads and do sidewalks and sanitary sewers and upgrades to your water and sanitary district projects throughout, stormwater projects, you need state and federal funding to do that. Now, we have some riverboat fundings in Michigan City, but that only goes so far. I mean, just alone the Ohio Street project, if you remember, from Highway 20 out to Franciscan Alliance, the new hospital, the Ohio Street extension of the storm sewer work, sidewalks, and that road, you're looking at about $11 million just for that project. So when people say, well, you got $10 million, you need upgrades to your wastewater treatment plant. That could be 30 million,
Right,
for
right.
something like that.
Yeah, La Crosse just had a new wastewater plant put in down there, and it was, I want to say, it was a multi-million-dollar project. So even a town as small as La Crosse.
Yeah. And I've seen recently your conversation about supporting clean water and things,
right?
Because that's probably the most important thing that man recycles.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't think about it, but all the water you use in your home or in factories or industries and everything goes through a treatment process. It's treated by the city's treatment plant, and then goes back into Trail Creek, which goes back into Lake Michigan, and then is a mile away is drawn back out by your water treatment plant to recycle, and that cycle goes on. And then it is such a crucial, important thing. And bipartisanship, I mean, who could be against clean water?
Right.
I get it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a shame that it has been politicized, because it's such I drink the water, my kids drink the water. Coal ash is a serious problem here. It's something that I think we all want to be handled properly. At the same time, NIPSCO is a very powerful, very powerful company, and they provide electricity, which we all, we all use and need.
It's important, but in the long run, NIPSCO belongs to the people in a sense, and they're not doing us any favors just because they're providing. They're making money. Lots of money. And,
I think their profits last year were somewhere around $500 million. That they divvied up among
and
the
I think the
shareholders.
cleanup should go back to them,
Absolutely.
not the
Not
user fees shouldn't go up
right.
to clean that up, and there's going to be a lot of remediation that's necessary in Michigan City when they do shut that coal plant down. It's going to be, you're probably looking at 4 to 6 years of demolition, remediation at the least.
Yeah, which I'm glad you brought up, because a lot of I've talked to a few concerned people that are like, okay, so NIPSCO, was supposed to do this and supposed to do that, but when they finally shut that plant down and they move out, we're gonna do this with it and we're gonna do that with it. I don't think they realize the scope of time that we're talking in order to clean that up, make it habitable, make it, what
it's
needs to be done. It's going to be a number of years.
It's going to be in the 2030s somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, 2035 seems like a realistic number, and it'll depend on when they actually shut it down, too.
Right, because they keep pushing that back as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, my thought was that there was some preliminary discussions of what would eventually happen with that land, even when I was still a mayor.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that now that we have the only national park in the state of Indiana, that they are going to try to get that land from Mount Baldy all the way to our harbor. Would be my point. Now, that'll be public access. There should always be public access.
Right.
I mean, personally, I think even with NIPSCO plant being there should still be public access to the lake, as far as fishing and things of that nature.
I agree. Yeah, it's kind of sad that it's blocked off like it is. You wouldn't think.
Well, they got real strict after 9/11. That was when I seen they got really. I mean, because as a teenager, I used to go back there fishing, and you'll hear stories about some of the old timers from the west side of Michigan City who used to go back and jump off the rocks and go swimming. Kids 30, 40 years ago, we did a lot of things different than they do now.
Right. Well, even not that long ago. I mean, one of the things that I've noticed living here, when we first moved in, we've lived in this house now for like 4.5 years. When we first moved in, it was super quiet. We didn't have really any issues. Now, apparently, shortly before we moved in, they had a rash of kids that were breaking into homes and cars here.
Mm-hmm.
But the neighborhood kind of got together and said, you're not doing that anymore. So recently, when we moved in, we noticed that we started hearing gunshots. And they actually, the next street over, they had a kid, I think it was early 20s.
Young man.
Yeah, a young man that was shot. And it was a disagreement, not gang related. It was just, a disagreement that got out of hand. Somebody that, chose to use a firearm rather than, punch their lights out back in the day. But it wasn't like that. That was kind of the start. We noticed that was maybe 8-10 months after we moved in, and we're like, okay. And it's not like I live in a crime riddled area. I mean, for those of you who don't know where I live right by Trail Creek. It's, two streets from Trail Creek.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
So my grandparents lived on Risky Avenue at the corner of Michigan Boulevard there, right next to the bank, for 30 plus years. And they never had any problems, at all. I'm a matter of blocks away, and we're starting to see, some concerning data and numbers.
Back in 2014, 2015, of course, it was different administration. I was in office. I had a different police administration.
Yeah.
We had some of the lowest crime in probably 2 or 3 decades.
Yeah.
There was a slight tick up years after that, but coming into 2020, 2021, I think there was 8 or 9 homicides in 2020.
Yeah.
And but public health and safety is one of the most important, crucial things to your community.
Oh, yeah.
Because as that goes, everything else goes better.
Right.
Of course, your school system education is crucial also of what you can offer in a community, but because you can invest millions, you can invest billions into your community. And if people don't feel safe, and if they're not safe,
right.
Like right now, a lot of times, the current prosecutor, he likes to throw out stats and things that, but the stats don't always show what's really going on.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
There's the perception, there's the reality of what's really happening back in our neighborhoods, nuisance crimes, things that are not reported. Well, many times police are called to something, they go to it, and by the time they've gotten there, either both people have left that has been involved, or there's been some vandalism. A lot of, I guess my point is, of day-to-day nighttime crime, shots fired. They may not find anybody. Yeah. That doesn't mean the shots weren't fired.
Right.
There was 12, 15 rounds went off in somebody's alley, and when they get there, there's nobody there. There's nothing. There's really nothing to report because they couldn't. But that doesn't mean the shots weren't fired. Right. It doesn't mean that the next morning somebody wakes up and there's a bullet hole in their window of their home or their vehicle. And a lot of nuisance crime, juvenile things that happen that never go or never get reported. That you never hear about.
Right, because they don't go into the
and there's a big uptick in that.
Yes.
And there's a lot of complaints in the community that there's people that are getting recycled, that they go to the judicial system and they're let off because the prosecutor, I just heard something today on the internet about the prosecutor's office letting this person out, and the police were even frustrated and disgusted with that type of behavior. So I think personally, my position that I believe there needs to be new leadership, throughout a lot of part of LaPorte County government right now, no doubt.
Yeah.
But like I say, public health and safety, when I was mayor, I supported the police so much. We were able to buy them about $500,000 annually with new vehicles and equipment, safety equipment, pretty much whatever they requested, they always got. And after probably, 2 or 3 decades of trying to get a new police station built, we were successful in getting them the new facility, the $13 million.
Which is amazing, by the way.
Yeah, you ever toured it? It's very nice.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And,
I went in there, and I was very pleasantly surprised because the location, you're like, okay, it was this old school, but they completely, they got rid of the old, I forget what school it was.
It was Eastport.
That's
school,
right. Yeah. So they got rid of that. They completely built it up from the ground up, and it's very modern. But not so much so that it looks out of place.
Right.
Like you go by there and you're like, it fits with the theme. It looks really nice. So.
Yeah, it's right on the boulevard. It was a state-of-the-art facility, and it still is.
Yeah.
Right now, I think the crucial part is they're undermanned. We need more officers. And there's federal money and state money that's come in, and I don't believe it's getting utilized properly. That's one of your top priorities is law enforcement.
Right.
And they should be, the leadership, once again, at the county, your top cop, prosecutor's office should be supporting your sheriffs, your local chiefs, and working out an unorthodox plan if that's what it takes. If that's what it takes to drop crime. But getting funding in there, you want local police from other departments in this area saying, I want to go to Michigan City because I can make more money. I got more benefits. I've got more
better equipment.
Yes, everything.
Whatever I need.
Whatever I need. and that because that's what some of the other departments in in Porter County, Lake County, whether it's St. Joe County, they're trying. It's a competitive, but we have to be competitive. Maybe there's some bonuses or specialty pay, for things that you offer your officers, and we did a lot of that. I mean, at one point, I believe we were at 93 sworn police officers in Michigan City, and I think we're in the 70s right now.
Yeah, it's gone way down.
And there's a lot of variables to that.
It's not just one thing. There's several things that have
transpired.
That have transpired and that have added to that. And officers in general, they don't feel appreciated. That's really what it comes down to.
And I've said this my entire political career, and I was city councilman 8 years prior to being mayor for 8 years, is that we send police officers and for that matter, people in the correctional system to deal with some of the most terrible social ills in our community. I mean, we want a police officer, he's dealing with domestics, he's dealing with drugs and alcohol and parents that are absent, and now the children are doing some things that they shouldn't be doing, but so many social issues, homelessness, mental illness, and this officer, or many times you have two officers that go to a call, are now faced with this situation that's it's very difficult. There's anger. Somebody's angry, but they're also under the influence of drugs and alcohol, which then makes things even escalate to another level. But we're asking them to deal with such social issues, and then they got to go home, and then they see some horrific things. I mean, just going to a car accident, or something where children are involved or whatever is got to be extremely stressful.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, Jack, he's a friend of mine. He's a tow truck driver, and a lot of times when you're talking about first responders, you don't think about the tow truck drivers that are called out to deal with the very same things,
pulling the cars apart and everything,
and the mangled bodies, and all of the things that go along with that. But I think as a whole, we've seen the the defund the police and this and that. Ultimately, officers need to feel like they're appreciated. They might stick around for a little less pay or a little less this or a little less that if they feel like their community gets behind them. And I think overall, Michigan City and LaPorte County have done fairly well in that regard to make officers feel like we really do appreciate you. It's not like, some of the areas, California or whatever, where, it's just blatant, we don't want you around.
Well, first of all, the whole defund the police concept is just ridiculous. That's ridiculous. If anything, we need more police. Now, do I expect high expectations of police officers to be ethical and moral? Yes, absolutely. No doubt about it. And that's where I talked about with some of the federal funding that, I think the Michigan City sitting on maybe 10 million, that we could be doing even more to enhance that, opportunities for the police officers. I don't know what it might be. You got to be creative. When I'm speaking with some people many times, I said, we've done some, when I was in office, we did some unorthodox things. We did some things that you got to get, because if you look at these communities, and a lot of them are doing the same thing, same results, and I've heard you talk about it being insanity, and it is. I mean, I remember one thing that we did when we started to have some problems in the Eastport neighborhood, which traditionally cycles in and does have some problems and issues, and I got with my police chiefs and things, and we went out randomly, unexpectedly. There was no time or anything. We did this for a couple months, and we called it Operation Lightning Bug. And so we would put officers on overtime. We might go out at 1 a.m. in Eastport, and for 2 hours, the cars would cruise through the neighborhood with all their lights on. They're slow, go down the alleys, and there'd be 12 vehicles. I'd be out there sometimes with them, riding with the police chief. And it showed a presence.
Which is huge. That makes a huge
3-4 days later, we may go out at 10 o'clock at night on a Friday night and do the exact same thing. But when you got 12 cruisers, and yes, they were on overtime, and and sometimes I had all 3 of my chiefs out there too, the chief and 2 assistant chiefs, and so it showed the public that we're out here.
Right.
And by the way, not much criminal activity occurred when we were out there.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
That's
And that's just one example.
Yeah.
And you got to have somebody in leadership that's sitting down, like I say, with the police chiefs, with your sheriff's department. What can we do that's different? Can we try this?
Right.
And you know what? There might be failures, but bam, you might have some success that no other communities haven't, and now they're asking you about, what you're doing, and why are you having this success? And we had a little bit of that where when I was in office, they were asking about community policing and what you were doing to outreach with the youth and things like that, because we had a lot of programs going and things, and so we went around the state and talked to people about it. So, but like I say, there's got to be a change. Crime is on the rise in LaPorte County, and heavier in Michigan City. And like I say, there's a ton that's not reported. There's a ton of things that the public never even hear, but certain neighbors or certain blocks know all about it. And so that's important.
So we got a couple of comments. Jack has said it's difficult to find money when the whole county only has 110,000 population. Porter County, for example, has 250K. Bigger tax base gets bigger toys. But Porter County doesn't have the casino. So I think the casino helps to offset that to a degree. Would you agree?
Well, in Michigan City in particular,
Michigan City in particular,
yes, they do. They have about $11 to $12 million that can be used for just about anything on an annual basis. And that hasn't dropped. There was some worry during COVID and things of that nature, but it stayed pretty consistent as I keep track of city government, county government still. And that's important that we have that to use towards law enforcement. Even with the I can't think of the exact funding source it is right now, where the federal money came in.
ARP funds.
Yeah, the ARP funds and stuff. Michigan City's still sitting on 10 million of those.
Oh, wow.
That could be utilized for these type of things also to enhance law enforcement. Because again, nothing else really matters if you don't have public health and safety. But it is competitive. There's no doubt, and there's less men and women wanting to get involved in law enforcement and corrections right now. And it's just for a minute, my 16-year-old, he goes through these phases, where he wants to be, he wants to be this, and then he's like, no, I want to be that. And we actually went to the we all did that, but we went to the Porter County Fair, and they had the Indiana National Guard out there, and they had the MRAP, the big, the big armored Humvee type vehicle, and he's like, man, he was really, really taken with it. He started looking at it, and then when we're leaving, he's like, if we had a different president. And I was like, no, the president doesn't have anything to do with the National Guard. And it was a teachable moment, because he didn't understand that. We never covered it. I said the governor of each state is in charge of their National Guard, and then he's like, oh, okay. So then he was talking about, so that's neat. Maybe I could be a police officer. And then, of course, we get into the defund police movement and what that means for those who are thinking about a police career. And maybe I'll get him on the show, and he can talk about it. Give his opinion. But the point is, there are those that have considered that as a career, and for whatever reason, to rethink it because of this ludicrous thought of defund the police, for one. But and
communities who don't appreciate or maybe don't invest in their officers the way I have a friend that I worked with at Indiana State Prison who recently left the LaPorte County Sheriff's Office because of the lack of funding, the lack of this. And I was like, well, why didn't you go to a different department? And he loves LaPorte County so much that he ended up going completely out of law enforcement altogether. He went to the steel mill. And so Bobby Greer, if you're watching,
name sounds familiar.
He's well known, but
you brought up the MRAP, and in 2014, 2015, we were offered from the federal government a free MRAP. It was about $750,000. I'm mayor. It becomes this big controversial issue from some conservative groups also, I might add. And law enforcement wanted it. Our agency wanted it, and we changed it to I think we called it a safety rescue vehicle rather than an MRAP, because
Yeah.
and they're worried we were going to go door to door.
Right.
Like I say, I'm
Start
pro
crashing through houses
Second
and
Amendment,
yeah.
taking people's guns away or whatever and thing. But I gave them the scenario. I said, we got an active shooter at Blue Chip Casino. People are down in the parking lot.
Yeah.
They need to be rescued.
Right.
That we don't know. They're up there shooting out of a window somewhere.
Yeah.
And we've got to get in there. I said, we don't have any vehicle right now that could go in there safely, but we could go in, and we had, a lot of our police officers came out of the military also, and we could rescue people. We could protect. We may have officers down that we need to get to.
Yeah.
Okay. And so to me, we were getting a $750,000 vehicle.
Right.
As me being in charge, I had no plans of going door to door and violating anybody's constitutional rights.
Yeah.
But that's what sometimes things just get blown out of proportion on social media.
Social media, the great cesspool.
There's things that are factual and there's things that are not factual. And I guess the accountability is anybody can say anything about anybody, and it's really, what are you going to do? Get into this back and forth? You've seen it. If you try to argue with someone, you may get ambushed by 10 more people, and you're in this endless argument. So
social media is its own.
It's its own world, no doubt about that. But it's here, and it's
for better or worse.
Right,
exactly. we have to utilize it.
Yeah.
Did you kind of off topic but on topic? Did you find as mayor that social media was a help or a hindrance? Because you were mayor, social media really kind of took off during that period.
Right.
Did you find that it helped you to kind of address the citizens and keep in touch, or did you find that it was just like overwhelming with all the people that were like, I want this?
Well, it's no doubt it's a double-edged sword.
Right.
That it can cut for you and it can cut against you.
Yeah.
And I would say that for 6-7 years of my administration, it was informational. We used it basically. I tried to stay out of the, because you don't want to even get in the middle of two people debating an issue. Well, why did the city make that 2 lanes instead of 1 lane or 1 way, or you know what I mean? There's all these, and stay out of that as much as possible. But sometimes, particularly this time of season when it's election time, people start to interject, and it can get like blood in the water. If somebody sees a bite out of you, then all these other sharks are coming in for the attack.
They sense
that's a great analogy.
That's perfect.
But it can be a very beneficial tool, and it's like I say, it's who's sending out the information, and particularly from government, it should be factual and true, that this is what's going to happen, this is when it's going to happen, this is how much we're spending on it. So I believe in transparency, absolutely total transparency. But you'll have some politicians, particularly the current LaPorte County prosecutor, that wants to say things that are not always accurate, and has been caught in that inaccuracy, and that's what it's obviously I support the Republican candidate Sean Fagan, and I just think he brings a different variety too. He's not just a prosecutor. He's not, obviously
he has some interesting life experience.
He's an attorney, and he's got qualifications that are unique, and you're managing that department, okay, and surrounding yourself. I did this as mayor. There was many that didn't think I had the experience when I first took office, or I could handle the position or anything. But it's who you surround you with. You're the coach, and you got to get the right players, and sometimes those players, even though they're good at what they do, doesn't mean when they're off the field they're not doing some things that you have to address, or So it's a management thing more than anything else. And to me, when I think of Sean Fagan, I think of an unorthodox method into the prosecutor's office, because I don't think you can sit here and say, hey, we have a successful prosecutor's office in LaPorte County right now, because we don't.
And I've talked about that before too.
And then he hires his wife too, which is nepotism. And even if it is permissible, but
a lot of things are technically permissible.
But in most governmental jobs, I couldn't hire anybody in my family to work for the city. Okay, and it's still wrong. Like I say, just because you can do something, don't mean it's the right thing to do.
And it's. I think that needs to be addressed. Personally, I think any position like that, elected positions, should put it this way: the vast majority of them don't allow it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Mayors,
pretty much any other.
Other
I think
elected
the
position.
sheriff and prosecutors is the only place I've seen it where it's really permissible.
Yeah, and sheriff was only for the matron.
Right.
Yeah. Anything else was like, no, don't do that. I think it's something that we maybe could tighten up. But I like Sean. Sean doesn't do well, I found, with like on camera. He kind of gets a little panicky. I've been working with him on that. But if you just get him by himself, he's so knowledgeable and he's so like on it. That's what I want to convey. That's why I did a couple of interviews with him, because I really thought it was important for the voters to see, other voters to see what I see. Yeah. Because when I get with him and we're talking and I'm like, okay, what about this? He's like that.
My conversations are the same. He's very intelligent,
right?
But he has ethics and he has morals and he seeks justice, and that's so crucial that you're not letting these other biases, like my political anger towards another opponent or something, and I want them prosecuted for that.
Right.
There's no room for that.
No,
that's absolutely. No. But we have that in the current with Lake in there.
There's a very vindictive energy there,
obvious.
And I mentioned it, and there are a couple other positions that have that same energy, and it's why I think we need a big.
But Sean Fagan is very capable.
Yeah.
But you're right; he's a little shy, and if you don't know him, and the other thing is that he has a sense of humor.
He does.
He's worked in some of these professions where he's seen a lot of things with children and bad things, and social work, and also and you've worked in some of those situations. And I love a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Sometimes my wife has had to pull the reins in on me and say, well, that's not the time for, but laughter is great.
It is. And you know what?
But it comes across wrong sometimes.
Sometimes it can. Especially those who, because one of the things that I've noticed is in police officers, correctional officers, people in first responders, people who deal with crimes against children, they tend to have a dark sense of humor. So they'll laugh at things that other people's are like,
oh my,
and they'll say something and it's like, oh.
But I wonder, do people ever stop and think what they really, like you say, correctional and law enforcement and children welfare, things of that nature, what these human beings go through sometimes 8, 10, 12 hours a day.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And it doesn't just switch off when you walk out of the facility or you go home from out patrolling or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah. And
it's there all the time.
Yeah. And if you were that way, you might be grim all the time and there are people in those professions having problems that need help. No doubt.
Let's see here. Oh, we got a troll. Yay. Let's see. I just ignore him. Let's see here. Jack did say something I want to find. Here it is. He had said from our earlier discussion, tow truck drivers are just citizens, so aren't even told that it's a fatal when they're sent out by dispatch, and commonly not when we arrive. We don't have time to mentally prepare. See, now that's something that we could potentially look into, maybe adding them to the, or at least,
having
them
exposure to some training and some
the resources for that, because they do, they get there and to not even be able to prep.
I don't, like you said earlier, I don't even believe a lot of people realize that there could be, multiple wreckers out on a job where there's been, they
have to get the vehicles
multiple
out there.
Fatalities and and I think about that too, even with your ambulance workers and things that are coming out there to that scene and stuff, and you got volunteer firefighters out there many times. Extricating people from these, and it's just it's got to have a mental toll, and maybe there should be some and we've spoke about this, that the lack of that opportunity in LaPorte County for addressing mental illness and drug and alcohol inflicted and things, and this where some of this money needs to be going into, and at the state level, that's some opportunities that. And not just LaPorte County, but there's the statewide,
but especially LaPorte County. One thing that I've seen, and this is kind of a personal anecdote, but one thing that I felt is as a, and yeah, you guys see, I got Trump. I'm obviously a Republican. I'm a conservative, but it's more for comedic value for me. He's holding my sign, yay. But more importantly, I haven't felt represented by many people who hold the offices around here, because it's generally left leaning, most Democrats. But I think it's really, really critical to be able to, even if you are, let's say, a Democrat, you have to be able to work with the Republican supermajority, and you still have to make things happen for your district. It's all well and good to to vote for things that are going to do projects elsewhere, or like we see like Indianapolis get these new facilities, or Fort Wayne, Kingsbury, but Michigan City, I just don't feel like there's, especially since you left as mayor, there's no bipartisanship working to get the projects here.
Yeah. Well, there's no effort going into it. First of all, I say it many times, Michigan City over the last 3 years has become very stagnant.
Yeah.
And a lot of the projects that you are seeing happen were things that we had put in place prior. Just seeing the Cowark Nature Park got dedicated, I think, last week. And that was something we started back in 2015 when the trash was starting to fall into the creek and stuff. And we were able to, Attorney Jim Meyer, who I put in place, had went out, and when they call it insurance mining, and he was able to go back and see people who illegally dumped in that dump many years ago, find out who their insurance companies were. Right. So this is a case where no taxpayer dollars went into that majority of that project, where it was insurance companies paying out on their clients from maybe 30, 40 years ago to pay for that cleanup, and now turned into a true nature park and things.
That's awesome.
But that's awesome. One of the things, they're there for the ribbon cutting and the recognition,
but had nothing to do with that. But
we did probably 3-4 years of the work prior to that. And in like I say, I've got many friends that are Republicans, Democrats. Some are in between independents. I told you I've always been an independent Democrat. I ain't been all involved with the Porte County Democratic Party and hooked up with them, and they know it. And that's probably why there's some disdain.
Well, that's why we got a troll.
Disdain for me. But I got to tell you, there's individuals in the LaPorte County Democratic Party that, and John Lake being one of them, that has done some of the most diabolical things that you can do in politics. Trying to imprison an innocent man and putting charges on somebody, felonies, is really, really bad in that position politically.
And of course, this is the same person who talks about, would rather let, I think he said 800 guilty people go instead of charging one innocent person. But yet he'll do some politically motivated charges, as he did in my case. I went 55 years of my life never being arrested for anything. I never even had a speeding ticket, which is pretty tough to do. That is hard to do. I've had speeding tickets.
I never even had a speeding ticket. And then because you say something your critique, or you say something critical about John Lake and his wife Mary, next thing you know, you have 6 felonies and 2 misdemeanors, which are all dismissed when a special prosecutor finally gets involved.
They all went away.
But it's just, that's pretty heinous in politics to try to imprison. That's some Vladimir Putin stuff. I'm going to imprison my political opposition. And he tried to have John Esparr arrested. He tried to have him prosecuted right after he took office. So going after any future, he wanted to, snuff him out of ever being a candidate against him.
Well, that's kind of the way it works when you're not secure enough in your platform, if you're not secure enough in what you're running on. So you have to make sure that there are ways that won't be called into question.
Right.
And it's one thing that's frustrating for me on a personal level with back to Sean Fagan, is on an individual talking to him level, I'm telling you, he's super smart. He can do a great job, but you get him in front of that camera and he feels the need to do Trump impressions and be a little goofy. And it's frustrating because I know he'd be a great prosecutor, and I think he'd do a phenomenal job and do what's best for the office. I just want to.
Well, there's a lot of. I mean, your average person and your average elected official. There's their persona when they're in office or they're on camera, they're on the radio. But you get with them at an event or a picnic or something. It's much different. I do Trump impersonations, just so you know.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
But I won't do one tonight for you.
That's all right. Here's the thing. I don't mind them, but there are. I guess it's timing. Yeah. Right. It's about that comedic value timing, and sometimes Sean's just a little off.
I know.
Yeah.
But and I just give the analogy to somebody the other day that look, this guy might be the greatest surgeon in the world. He's a heart surgeon or a brain surgeon or whatever it is, and he's your surgeon. Yeah. But he says some off the wall things, and his bedside manner is not the best, or he says some jokes that you don't like or whatever. Are you going to get rid of him just because, he hits you wrong personally and things like that? But he's good at what he does, and he can be the best at what he does. This surgeon may have a 99% success record, and you're going to get rid of him because he hits you wrong.
Right, and that's something that I want to tell prospective voters, I guess, is it's the first. Sean's the first time running for office. He's never ran for anything before. In 2020, when I kind of jumped into the arena, I didn't know what the heck I was doing either. And I made some really bad errors, and just statements that were just like, I look back at it and I'm like, oh man, I really should have deleted that episode, or but I haven't, because I think it's important to show the growth, right? To look at, and as far as growth goes, the city of Michigan City, I think we are in such an amazing place to expand, to really grow, not just the population, but to have businesses and serious investors come in and transform Michigan. And I'm not talking about gentrify it. I mean, there's
invest
and give us the quality careers that we used to have.
Having more job creation, but the quality job creation, and that's where you want corporate headquarters to possibly be in Michigan City, Indiana, because of the connectivity between South Bend, Chicago, and that area. And we were working on that, and part of what the double track is part of that, and many other things that, and we like you say, having investors that want to come in here. The job market is better right now. There's no doubt. As far as availability of jobs.
McDonald's is paying $15 an hour.
Inflation is terrible. Inflation is terrible because many people say, well, you can go and make $18 at McDonald's or Arby's. Yeah, but we're all paying for that, and our groceries and gasoline is just terrible, and that's what people really affect. I mean, I remember, I think it was 2004 is when I first ran for city council. And it's pretty grassroots, the third ward city councilman. That's the west side of Michigan City, the Knapp School area, Tennessee, Kentucky Street, that part of the town and stuff. And there'd been an incumbent, had been in there 16 years, Denzel Wilson and things in there. You don't stand a chance. The Democratic Party was not in supportive of me. It was a grassroots. It was my wife and a few allies and things. And but we won. And then my second term as city council, I didn't even have any. I was uncontested, so that was nice. Those are always nice. It never happens as mayor or anything.
Of course not.
But I think that's important that the Democratic Party in LaPorte County, and maybe this is something that's everywhere, has their favorites. And you've got to step in line, and if you don't, certain things happen to you, or you're definitely not supported, financially and things like that. So it's important to point out. But you're right, we are poised, and that's where important leadership comes in. You can't just hunker down at City Hall, and hide. You can't, say certain things that are inappropriate in the community, as our current mayor has, and it's pretty embarrassing, and he should have hung the phone up, but I mean, he shouldn't have been saying it in the first place. But the point of the matter is that that's caused stagnation in Michigan City right now. He has a very adversary relationship with the current city council. So there's a stalemate right there. We're not going anywhere.
Right.
You know, at the very least, if I don't get along with the council, I mean, I did for the most part, both of my councils, we were able to get things accomplished, even though we didn't always agree on certain things. But let's sit down. Okay, you guys want these 3 things to happen. I need these 3 things to happen.
Yeah.
You support me on mine. I'll support you on yours. Because it's nothing happens without the mayor bringing it forward.
Right.
And nothing happens without that city council saying, yes, you can move forward with the funding for this project.
Yeah.
And that's the important part. But right now, we're just, you know, they're waiting for the next administration, it seems like.
Yeah, the council even, like, there was a period where, like, every day they were doing the no confidence vote. They were saying, not every day, but every meeting, you know, they were
discussed.
doing, it was no confidence vote. And so they basically publicly said, we're not going to get anything done. We're not going to advance anything you want. You know, right or wrong, it happened. So Michigan City, as a result, Michigan City itself, and, you know, by proxy, the people who live here, we're not getting any advancement. And I don't see that changing until we have a different administration.
One of the things as you're seeking a state office is infrastructure.
Right.
And through 2021 and 2022, it was 2022, there's been no road construction in Michigan City, no sidewalk work, very little striping for safety concerns and everything. And in 2021, there was very little work there also. Yeah. I mean,
they finished up a few projects.
Some years we were putting $5 to $10 million in that type of infrastructure. And some of it was riverboat money, some of it was federal funding, some of it was state, federal, combined funding. Yeah. And that's important. But you got to seek that. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and it's constant work in that office of the mayor. But we need that back. We need to start getting some monies in and start utilizing them. And, you know, now with the big federal bill, far as roads, bridges, but that includes sewers and treatment plants and things of that nature that are, I always said in the mayor's office, because there's all this side stuff that you get involved with.
Right.
But it's the day-to-day operations of running the city, your water, your sewer, your police, your fire, your road conditions, your sidewalk, public health and safety, cooperating with the school system. You know, many times, you know, people say, well, the teachers need more and they need this. And I don't disagree with that. Yeah. But many times it's not just the teachers. It's the bus drivers, the school bus drivers. It's your custodians. It's people that are support staff of that education system also. Yeah. You know, bus drivers, you know, I sometimes think of them as so underappreciated in our community. We pay them, you know, whatever it is we pay them. It's moderate. It's not very good, okay, considering. But somebody to haul beer and whiskey, we might be paying them $28 an hour. Yeah. So as a society, what if we put more importance on? Okay, school bus drivers are transporting our most precious cargo in society. Right. I agree. And they should be getting that type of money or more.
Well, then you would. If you gave them that kind of money, you would draw the quality candidates. Right now, you know, you either have to have an absolute passion for doing that, which most of them do.
Yeah, they enjoy children and kids. Yeah.
But then you have the people that, I could do that.
Yeah. You know, well, and you got to have a commercial driver's license. Right. You got to have the proper endorsements to be hauling people. Right. For, you know, kids.
And if you're going to go through that step to get the CDL for, you know, doing the buses, one more grade up and you can make, you know.
I just think they're underappreciated and underpaid. You know, and the majority of the time they have no health insurance.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they're making, you know, maybe there's somebody that say, well, they're making $17, $18 an hour to drive a school bus. Like say they're hauling the most precious cargo we have, our children. And so I think they should be making more money an hour, and I think they should have a health plan.
Yeah. Well, let's realize that the state of Indiana spends over half, close to 60% on the education budget, 50% being K through 12. Where's the money going? You know, and get into the nitty gritty of it, but administrative costs eat up a huge amount. Now, Mike, I don't know, but I plan on finding out, are administrative costs part of, you know, what they're paying the bus drivers with, or are we talking about, the people that sit around in offices and make the policies and decide this stuff? So
yeah, and that's part of being effective downstate,
right?
Is you work through the Senate and the House Representative. It's going to be getting things done,
right?
And many times I've seen things where people said, well, Karen Talion was an example of that. She said she got out of it because she was frustrated. She said she was tired of pounding her head against the wall with the Republicans and not getting things done.
Right.
You got to have this knack of working across party lines, where you're not looked at as an enemy, but you're looked at as an ally, even though I don't agree with you on everything.
Right.
And that, we talked about earlier in the show, is that you can't be in this corner that there's this list of 10 things that the Democrats say you got to follow and you got to be on this. But if you're off of 2 of them, you're not part of it. And same with the Republican Party.
Same thing. There's the screen. I don't know. Is there a term in the Democrat Party for someone who says they're a Democrat, but there's not, like there is Rhino? I'm sure you've heard the term Rhino, Republican in name only, right? Do you guys have that in the Democrat Party at all, or is it just
if they do, they haven't let me in on it.
Fair enough. I was just wondering because everybody's
surprising.
heard of
Rhino.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of times that. Like I told you, my grandfather, both belonged to the NRA.
Yeah.
Both were gun collectors, gunsmiths,
right.
Hunters, fishermen, things of that nature. I think the reason that I even became a Democrat was my grandfather, my uncles, my dad were all union electricians out of 531 here locally. Yeah. And a lot of the unions have traditionally been Democrats, and so. Yeah. And I've always been pro-union myself. I belonged to the International Chemical Workers at one point in younger days. And so I think that's where a lot of my, where you became a Democrat. But on the other hand, my parents and grandparents had a lot of conservative tendencies also.
Well, conservative and Democrat used to not be mutually exclusive. The party, was the party of JFK.
Things have changed.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, they have.
Yeah. I guess there was some national polling that happened in the area, and one of the things they had asked in Michigan City, at least, was, "Do you identify as a liberal or a conservative?" And it was only like 17% that identified as liberal, and over 50% conservative. Now we well know that the city of Michigan City is traditionally blue; it's traditionally Democrat. So how can especially with today the labels? If you identify as conservative, you can't be a Democrat.
Well, and probably because a lot of the Democratic friends that I do have are moderates or conservative Democrats,
right,
and things of that nature. So, it's just funny how it's changed through the years.
Right.
Now you're seeing trade unions endorsing Republican candidates from time to time.
Right.
So things have really changed.
They have. And I think they changed for the better. I think we're getting more towards, at least in some areas. Obviously, there are some where it's like, okay, but at least with some of these trade organizations, they're opening their minds to the potential that maybe someone might be traditionally conservative or Republican, but they're still pro-union. I'm pro-union. As a former truck driver, we had a union as a correctional officer at the very beginning, but then they dissolved it. So I'm pro-union, and I'm the only Republican that I know of, at least recently, that has looked at the right to work legislation and said there's an issue here. But you see these labor organizations, I guess at least the rank and file, opening their eyes and going, maybe we need to think outside the left-right box and start,
there's something ethically and morally wrong to me to have somebody, a Republican or a Democrat, and they're and you like what they're going to do and it's the right thing to do, but dislike it and go against it just because it's coming from a Democrat or just because it's coming. I see some of that now that I don't like. I don't like that at all. Is that, look, if I don't care if the Republican, if he's got a great or she's got a great idea and concept, I'm behind. I'm going to support it. I'm not going to be like nope, sorry.
Yeah.
I know it's going to save thousands of lives, or it's going to do this or what, but I can't. I mean, it's so ridiculous and so extreme.
That's part of the problem, I think, that we're having downstate is the incumbent will not vote outside of what the Democrat Party tells them. Vote for this or don't vote for this. I have heard from Republicans who have approached them to say, hey, we can do this legislation together. I think it was about school buses, natural gas school buses. And nope, coming from a Republican, I can't
because
do
they're
it.
The lead on it or something.
Right. Because, God forbid you work together. So
it's not logical.
It's not. It's not. And it all it does is create a bigger rift, and the people in the district suffer. And that's something that I like to believe that I can do effectively, because the reality is, in order to make things happen for Michigan City, I'm going to have to work with the other side. Michigan City is run by, Democrats. The city council is I'm going to have to work with them. What do your constituents need? And we make that happen.
It's a good chance that the council and probably the next mayor may be Democrat,
right,
unless Republicans put somebody really, really strong,
right,
like the retired police chief Dion Campbell or something like that.
Yeah.
If he ran as a Republican, that could change the complexity of things. There's no doubt about it.
That'd be interesting. I would totally.
And I don't know.
Right.
I'm the one who appointed Chief Campbell.
Right.
After Chief Swistick resigned.
Yeah.
And he's a great guy, and he deals with human beings really, really well. He's got and I don't have any idea if politics are in his.
He has said, at least publicly, he's always said, "Oh, I'm not running for this. I don't want to do that."
Yeah.
But I know, during 2020, he made national news. Because of the way he handled the people, and I follow him on Facebook. He's a minister. He always has very inspirational things to say, and
no doubt.
And I guess he's retiring now. I don't know what the whole politics are of what happened there. I'm not going to speak to that because I have no clue. But if he were to run. That would be a tough one.
No question, he'd be a strong candidate across party lines.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been told that he's Republican. I don't know that for a fact.
I don't know. He's never. That's the other thing is he'll never really say.
You never can.
You never can say. I know. I'm pretty sure he supported Biden. But
I don't.
There's no telling there. But
me and my wife
keeps his cards very close.
We've known Dion since he was middle school. And I think my wife's probably known him since grade school.
He was the only other Dion that I actually knew about in the area. You don't see too many. It's an uncommon name. And when I found out he was the police chief, I was like, yes, another Dion.
Well, it's a good one to be in the group with.
Right. That's what I was like. Thank goodness he isn't. What could be. Because growing up, the Michigan City Police Department had a very bad reputation, and that's been completely changed around.
Yeah,
completely.
It's a whole different, concept of how policing should be and things like that. I mean, I was born in 1964, and you don't really realize anything until in the 70s. But 70s, there was some rough times. Late 60s, early 70s. In Michigan City, and
they had riots and everything else during that period. But we're up on an hour, so I appreciate you coming on, ladies and gentlemen. I see. Let's see. Okay. I don't really see anything. We got a shill for the party, the guy who got Jackie Walorski to buy him a bed so he could turn around and sell it. So I don't really give him a whole lot of credibility. So
I know it is. He's got a few other things.
Yeah. So but ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you taking the time to come hang out with me and Mr. Meer. One of the things that I've always said, and He just happens to be the first one to actually take it up. Everyone is welcome on my show. I believe 100% in free speech. I think some of the best discussions. I can have a sounding board all day long, and I can't think of the term for it, but basically where you surround yourself with people of like mind, and there's no difference there. The term escapes me at the moment, but I think that the best conversations are held with people who you don't agree on everything.
Right?
Yeah, there are some differences.
And this is how you would truly get progression in this country, is to be that way.
Exactly.
Is that I'm not going to I'm embedded here and I'm embedded there, and there's
right.
Yeah. I thank you for having me on.
Absolutely.
Yes,
thank you for coming. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm in the broadcast now. God bless you. God bless Indiana. And God bless the United States of America.
If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose. This has been Dion's Daily Dose, hosted by Dion Bergeron. Executive producers Sean Holgram and Michael Beebe. Copyright 2022. Dion's Daily Dose. All rights reserved.